Shabbat Shalom. Rabbi Brian here. If you're joining us from YouTube, from some other city or state, welcome to Beth-El congregation. If you're someone we haven't seen in a while, we haven't seen a lot of our members unless they're on Zoom, hello. If there's something you need, give us a call at the temple. As we're preparing for Shabbat services, clear off your counter if you're sitting at a table, turn off the television news. Definitely don't watch services with the television news on. We want to create a safe place, a sacred place. Get out your candles if you can, or if not, just join us here. This Shabbat, we light the candles. We prepare for the peace and the light of Shabbat. This Shabbat, the Torah portion is Divarim Deuteronomy. It's the 5th and final book of the Torah. As we get ready for Rosh Hashanah in less than 2 months, Moses retells the story of the journey of the Jewish people through his eyes, the prism of his experience. And so, as we end the 5th month of this time, stuck at home, retell your story. Maybe there's something you've wanted to do, somebody you've wanted to call, and it's just gotten lost in the blur of craziness. Maybe there's a book you've wanted to read. Maybe there's someone you want to write a letter to. Or just a way to experience a few hours of Shabbat, reconnect yourself, and just again, clear that space in front of you. Again, just create a Shabbat place for an hour or two. Again, just put that phone away. And as you join us and as we join together, a reminder that if you'd like to light candles for us, we need those videos a couple weeks in advance, but an invitation to light candles alone or with your family if you are with others at home, and to wish us a Shabbat Shalom, to get that video to me and I will get it to Mark Sloter, and you can welcome others on a Friday night. We welcome those opportunities. If you miss seeing the faces of others, a reminder that at 5 o'clock every Friday and at 6 o'clock every Saturday, we gather for Shabbat candlelighting, we gather for Havdalah on Zoom, or we can just do it here. And so as we get ready to go to the sanctuary, we join together. We bring the light of Shabbat into our homes, our sacred places. May this be a Shabbat of light, of retelling, of recommitting. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. May you have a Shabbat of peace, a Shabbat of Shabbat. Thank you, Hans. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, John. Shabbat Shalom to all of you from our chapel this week. It's good to have you with us. I suspect some of you are turning in later tonight because I just learned what some of you knew, which is tonight's the first night of Texas Rangers baseball. So enjoy your Shabbat that way also. And if you're joining us as well later, and hopefully a couple of you aren't saying, oh, there's baseball on when I'm changing the channel now. Hopefully I haven't lost a few views in the last minute. But we're glad you're here, and whatever you do to be grounded, not grounded out, just grounded. We're glad to have you here with us on this Shabbat. Our service continues with the blessing over wine and the blessing over bread. Page 123 in our prayer books. And a reminder that if you're using an actual prayer book, it's the page numbers in parentheses, in brackets.
Shabbat Shalom. We are so happy to be here. Please join me in the blessing over wine.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kosho be'ahavat u'ratzon inkilanu, zikaron l'maaseh bereshit, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר לציון מצרים. כי בנו זכרת, ואותנו קידשת, מן כל העמים, ושבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון, הנחלתנו. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen.
Chaim? There you got the wine. Yeah, finally. There you go. And
And for all of those who are so excited for Passover,
that's right.
we have our matzah here. Hopefully you have something tasty at home, something sweet, the sweet taste of Shabbat. So join me in the blessing of our bread.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam,
Motzi
hamotzi
lechem
lechem
mi'aretz.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. We're not going to read from the Torah tonight, but I want to point out that we begin a new book of the Torah this week. If you're following at home, if you're studying online in your house, this is the beginning of Divarim, the first book of the Bible. Divarim is called by the name Deuteronomy in English, really Greek. It comes from the words for second law. And it's true that the book of Deuteronomy is the repetition of the laws that have been given in the prior 2.5 books of the Torah. But Divarim means matters or words, details, things. A Divar can be a heated debate over a matter. A Divar can be a teaching of Torah. A Divar can be something physical you're picking up. Or you can say in Israel, Ma Davar, what is the matter? What is not what's wrong, but what is the thing we're talking about? So a Divar is concrete. A Divar is also untouchable. But really, many also call this book of the Torah the second Torah. And the reason they do that is because it is Moses' Torah. Or if you allow me to explain, it's Moses' version of the events that are going through the desert. So while there are a lot of laws in the book of Divarim, the matters we're really learning, the things we're struggling with, aren't just the Torah, but the Torah filtered through the eyes of the character Moses. The 10 Commandments occur for the second time next week. The Sheman V'Yahavta occur next week. And all these things are filtered through Moses. The words Ela Divarim, Asher Diber Moshe El Yisrael. These are the matters, the things, the words that God spoke to Moses to speak to the children of Israel. And then something else we see in the Torah beginning this week are the words E, the vowel, dot, and letter, Yud, E, or O-T. Things end in the personal. This is what I saw. This is what I learned. This is what I'm telling you. It's through Moses' life. So who is Moses? Moses the man. Do we know? We have images and ideas and assumptions, but so much of what we know is filtered through our own bias, through childhood stories written centuries later, through movies and books, popular culture, Hebrew school. We don't really know Moses, anything about Moses, anything about the most famous Jewish leader in the Torah of all time. We know he was born a slave. We know he was raised a prince. We know he was weaned by his own Jewish mother and therefore was very conscious of the two worlds he lived in. We know from the Torah that he is self-conscious about how he speaks. We know that he is a reluctant leader. We know that he is by turns very patient or very quick to anger. We suspect that Moses, the prince, is also something of an introvert. He's much more comfortable hanging out with God than spending time with the people Israel, away on the mountain, away from others. We know that he's much more comfortable with God than with his own family, as he is repeatedly reminded to come out of his position and be with those he should be closer to. But much of everything else about Moses is layered, filtered through us and through the art of storytelling. What we think about Moses, and we all have an opinion about Moses, is really much more reflective of ourselves. Before we can listen to others, before we can understand, the first step is the acknowledgement that we need to know who we are. We need to understand what we're filtering our stories through. Corey Fisher founded the Traveling Jewish Theater. He passed away just a few weeks ago at the age of 75. He created first a traveling Jewish theater and then a permanent Jewish theater in which he explored his own connection and identities in the Bay Area in San Francisco, California, trying to understand his connection to Judaism. One of the last productions he starred in was playing Shimon Peres in Oslo. One of the first productions he starred in was a play he co-wrote titled Coming at a Great Distance. He wrote Coming Out of a Great Distance because he said that he didn't understand Judaism. It was too far from his own experience. He needed to find his way through the stories to a Judaism that spoke to him. In that play, he wrote, "Stories move in circles. They don't go in straight lines. So it helps if you listen in circles. There are stories inside stories, and stories between stories. Finding your way through them is as easy and as hard as finding your way home. Part of the finding is the getting lost. And when you're lost, you start to look around and listen." So we have to be true with ourselves. We have to peel through the layers. We have to ask how much closer we are to being honest about our own core, just as we've made so many assumptions and added so many layers to the life and story of Moses. And then perhaps as we find the true self, we can be open and honest with hearing the true selves of others. Shalom Aleichem, the journey of going away and coming back home, the journey of Shabbat. We join together.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharech, Malachei Knerot, Melech Malachei Halachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachei Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Knerot, Melech Malachei Halachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Adonai Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Halachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sechem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon.
Why should I wish to see God better than this day? I see God in every hour of the 24, and each moment then. In the faces of men and women I see God, and in my own face in the glass. I find letters from God in the street, and every one is signed by God's name. And I leave them where they are, for I know that wherever I go, others will punctually come forever and ever. We look to those letters. We look on the street. We enter the palace of time known as Shabbat. We rise on page 146. We turn to the Baruch Hu. Blessed are you, O God, who loves your people Israel. Page 150, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Page 155, if you are standing at home, you can be seated and you can join with me if you like. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe where we were once taught, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, but there is a better way, a promised land, as we cross that sea to freedom. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the long, soft evenings, the shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety. And in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim.
Shabbat, Lasot et Shabbat, Legorot Ameritola. Lasot et Shabbat, Legorot Ameritola. Neshamro bnei Israel, et Shabbat, Shabbat. Neshamro bnei Shabbat, Israel, Oti Leolam. Israel, Oti Leolam. Neshamru bnei Israel, Shabbat, Shabbat. Neshamru bnei Israel, Shabbat, Kishetem Yamim, Asadonai et Hashamayim et Haaretz. Kishetem Yamim, Asadonai et Hashamayim et Haaretz. Neshamru bnei Israel, Shabbat, Shabbat. Neshamru bnei Israel, Shabbat, Shabbat.
Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said, prayer may not save us, but prayer makes us worth saving. O God, open our lips, that our mouths may know how to meet you, to declare your praise.
Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. El Hagedol, Hagidol, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'chevnei Hakol, Etzocher Chasdei Avot Ba'imachot, U'nei Gula Livenen, Leman Shemo Be'ah, Me'ozer Moshiach U'Magin, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magid Avraham, Ezrat Sarah, Atah Yibor Le'olam Adonai, Mekayem Kol Tara V'Loshia, Mechacher Chaim V'Chesed, Mechayeh Hakol V'Rachamim Rabim, Zomech Noflim V'Rofech Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mkayem Emunato, L'Shenei Afar, Yichamo Chavar Yedurot, U'Midom Melach, Melech Menit U'Chayeh, U'Matzmiach Yeshua, Ne'eman Atal Chayot Hakol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh Hakol, Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, Yoshim Be'olam, Chasela, Baruch Adonai, El Kadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God.
Page 173. Disturb us, Adonai, ruffle us from our complacency, make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans. Shock us, Adonai, deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears. Make us know the border of the sanctuary is not the border of the living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'amecha Yisrael, U'tafilatan ve'ahavat lekaveh, U'tahil ratzon tamid, U'tahil ratzon tamid, avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha, ve'yira navod, she'otecha
Take a moment of groundedness, or a moment of seeking, or a moment to find your own center. prayer for all who are in need of healing. We mention the names of Amy Stein, Sherry Goldstein, Felix Oshman, Hetty Collins, Jenny Solomon, Christine Levy, Sam Kleinman, Howard Katz, Peter Levy, Kevin Delavan, Lillian Deutsch, Karen Delavan, Ted Mack, Leslie Arnov, Brendan Levy, Christopher Long, Ellen Alcon, Robert Bogan, William Westerman, Ann Westerman, Mike Fox, Claire Brunhild, Debbie Friedman, Eddie Sankery, Katrina Joy Rogers, Elliot Plumberg, Graham Baker, Maria Schoen, Jeffrey Mark, Stacy Lewis, Charlotte Fiwes, Annette Dover, and those you may be keeping in your hearts right now, all who are struggling but have not wished to share it, and the many, many first responders who continue to toil as the numbers come in. We turn to page 371, should you wish to join it. Page 586, we continue with Aleinu. On this Shabbat, we mention in the 30-day period of mourning known as Shloshim, James Jim Bressert, Janelle Sterry, Lester Baum, Mike Gaston, Susan Hine, Anita Klein, Sally Lynn Shore, and we mention the yahrzeits, the anniversaries of their deaths, of Benjamin Levin, Anna N. Wolfson, Harold Brem, Hyman Wolf, Louise Weltman, Gussie Weiner, Hazel Shapiro, Gerson Seppin, B.B. Schwartz, Herbert Rothstein, E.M. Manny Rosenthal, Burton Lee Rackover, Sarah Nuremberg, Elaine Levy, Benjamin Lewis Levin, Herman Lehman, Thomas Leachman Lacey III, Julius Kunin, David Krumholtz, Carrie K. Kruckman, Sandra Rubin Koslow, Pauline Clier Levy, Morris Hendelman, Arthur J. Greenspoon, Yvette D. D. Friedberg, William Benjamin Fried, Charlotte Fleischman, Lana Jean Fleischman, Sarah Feit, May Joseph Davidson, Gabriel Cohn, William Wyatt Campbell, Minnie Shore Bahari, William A. Bermont, and I want to just add the name, and I want to thank Hollis Weiner for pointing it out to me, of Pearl Brown Lynette. Pearl Brown Lynette passed away just a week ago, 102 years. Her father was a founder and past president of Beth-El. Pearl was a war bride who passed away due to the global influenza pandemic at age 24, having danced with soldiers at social nightclubs, married just recently to a soldier from New York assigned to Camp Bowie during World War II, married in a ceremony at her home, living only 3 months married. As her husband was sent out to the front, she was taken down by the Spanish flu. She is buried at our Hebrew Rest Cemetery. These stories speak to people we don't know in other times, but they are part of our stories as well. And so once more, because you may not have caught all of it, I'd like to offer the words of Corey Fisher, Alav HaShalom, who passed away a few weeks ago. Stories move in circles. They don't go in straight lines. So it helps if you listen in circles. There are stories, inside stories, inside stories, between stories. Finding your way through them is as easy and as hard as finding your way home. And part of the finding is getting lost. And when you're lost, you start to look around and listen. Kaddish is about stories. It's about circles. It's about feeling lost, but finding your way home. Page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbi, bi'alma divrach hirutei, v'amlich malchutei, b'chaye chon u'vyome chon, u'vchaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agalal v'izman kariv, v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam u'lomei al-maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitba'ar v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalah. Shmei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'ila min chol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Damiram bi'almal v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. May God bring peace and strength to all who search, all who tell stories, all who remember. And we say, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I want to thank Jeff and Mark. I want to thank who are streaming. I want to thank Hans. And I want to thank John, of course. A lot of people are getting ready for the holidays. Hans and John and others are doing a lot of work. And this is a big week. You're going to get a lot of information. We are tweaking, but you will be receiving in the next 7 to 10 days. I'm not trying to tease. It all needs to be presented just the right way. Information about the wonderful hybrid approach to school. Is it as good as being in person? No. Is it making lemonade out of lemons? It's like making a lot of lemonade. And Shoshana is working day and night with others, hours, to create a hybrid that will give some value to all the parents and all the students. And there will be many Zoom calls for those who might get these packs and pull their hair out, as simple as we try to make it. You'll be receiving in the next week and a half, who knows, in the virus with the mail, but we thank our postal workers, a copy of a whole new look to the bulletin, which will be coming in an envelope, so you don't forget to look at it. And I want to thank Rick Press and Liz Mannion and their team, including Alexa Kirk and others, who put a lot of time into whipping it out and getting it ready, and Judy Greenman, who kind of nudged everybody to get it started. And attached to that will be a High Holy Day schedule that has only glimmers of last year's High Holy Day schedule, sparks of the past, and hope for the future. Isn't that poetic? Somebody at home right now is saying, do you know what he's talking about? I don't know what Trust me, a lot of hours went into that as well, and Hans and John and others are putting a lot of hours into it. And if you do look at that packet and bang your head a little, there will also be many opportunities to say what is going on at the holidays. But we're working hard to bring you something of value. And finally, beginning next week, services are at 6:15. Not necessarily all the High Holy Day services, but Shabbat services are at 6:15 until we are together. If you're watching live, you're saying, oh, it's good to know. I can have dinner early or after. If you're watching much later at night, it just means that at 7:45, we may need a couple extra minutes for the stream to come up on YouTube. You can watch it when you wish. Beginning next week, when Christina Major Davis will offer a concert in lieu of a sermon. And so the first half of our evening will be in here with John and Hans and me. And then about 35, 40 minutes later, there will be a sermon in song and story and music, opera and Jewish music and more, that Christina will be leading us, joining us in to listen. So if music is how you enjoy Shabbat, do not go away. I'll remind you, but don't say in the middle of Kaddish, okay, I did Kaddish, out. Stay and listen as we switch rooms with our cameras for what will be a wonderful, wonderful evening. And with that note, we will end with beautiful music tonight.
Yes, join us on page 625. We will be singing a perennial favorite, Adon Olam. But this time, because you're not with us, we're only going to sing 2 verses. 1 and 5, please, tonight.
Asher lama, Terem kol yesir nira, Lehet nasa vechem zokol, Azai melech Shimon nikra, Azai melech Shimon nikra, V'yachareh achidru li, Lehet isha le'ayira, Adonai li v'lo yirah, God is mine, I am not afraid. May you be safe this week. May you brave the storms of fear, even as you are careful. And may God guard your coming and going until you are virtually back with us again next week.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Thank you.